the aftermath of World War II, the war-hit United Kingdom was faced with a choice. Try to hold on to its empire, particularly in the Indian subcontinent, in the face of the fight for freedom, or leave. It chose the latter, but not before one last act, splitting India and Pakistan into two separate independent dominions via the Indian Independence Act 1947. Hello everyone, I'm Apurva Pandita and welcome to Live Law. And as we approach the 77th Independence Day, let's talk about the Indian Independence Act 1947, one of the most important tools towards the independence of India. How it came into force and what changed after that. The Indian Independence Act, enacted by the British Parliament on July 5, 1947, marked a pivotal moment in history. This act aimed to transfer authority from the British Crown to the newly emerging dominions of India and Pakistan, effectively ending British control over Indian affairs. This significant development was rooted in a complex historical backdrop. After the revolt of 1857, the British Crown had taken over governance from the British East India Company. During the ensuing years of the British rule, native Indians faced oppression and discrimination. The tide of resentment against British dominance grew, particularly with the onset of World War II. In a bid to secure Indian support during the war, the British made promises towards eventual self-governance. Before the British, India had a rich history of dynastic rulers. However, the arrival of the British East India Company led to annexation through political treaties and conflicts like the Anglo-Carnatic Wars. The company introduced strategies such as subsidiary alliances, which established British influence over Indian territories. Over time, many Indian princely states succumbed to these alliances. Following the Indian Revolt of 1857, administrative powers were stripped from the East India Company and direct crown rule was established. Nevertheless, resistance against British rule grew stronger. Amidst various leaders of this movement, one figure emerged as prominent advocate of non-violent resistance, Mahatma Gandhi. His methods garnered widespread support, leading to large-scale public protests. Ultimately, the British yielded to increasing pressure. The Indian Independence Act was presented in the British Parliament by Lord Listowel, the last Secretary of State for India and a minister in the British Cabinet. The Act was successfully passed, paving the way for the birth of independent India and Pakistan. The princely states also regained their sovereignty with the choice to align with either India or Pakistan. Speaking of the major highlights, what exactly were the key changes brought about by the Indian Independence Act of 1947? Sovereignty and independence of India. Well, this act officially recognized India as a self-governing and independent country. While talking about the partition and religious division, this act allowed for the partition of India into two separate territories, namely India and Pakistan, based on religious differences. Talking about the leadership, the roles of Secretary of State for India and Viceroy were abolished. Instead, two separate Governor-Generals were appointed for India and Pakistan, advised by the British Cabinet. Speaking of the constitutional powers, constituent assemblies in both the dominions gained the authority to create their own constitutions and repeal British laws, including the Independence Act itself. Talking about the legislative power, the constituent assemblies acted as temporary legislative bodies until they could establish their own constitutions. Princely state had the choice. They were given the choice to join either India or Pakistan or remain independent. The governance model of the Government of India Act 1935 was followed in each dominion. The British monarch lost the power to veto or influence Indian bills. The Governor-General of each dominion acted based on advice from the Council. The Radcliffe Commission was established to draw boundaries based on religious lines, resulting in the division of Punjab and Bengal between India and Pakistan. Lord Louis Mountbatten became the Governor-General of India. Muhammad Ali Jinnah became the Governor-General of Pakistan. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru became India's Prime Minister and Liaquat Ali Khan became the Prime Minister of Pakistan. In a sense, the Indian Independence Act 1947 marked India's journey to independence, introducing new leadership roles, granting constitutional power to create their own laws, and defining the division of territories based on religious lines. It also set the stage for India and Pakistan to develop their own governance structures and leaders. With this, we've come to the end of this video. We really hope that you like our content, and if you do, then do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Now you can also become a member by donating ₹89 per month. Happy Independence Day.